Ladies and gentlemen, now I just arrived back in England yesterday evening, and this is the first thing I wanted to talk about, which is the update to balancing in MCOC that went out a few days ago. And I saw this, and I was just like, "Kabam, what are you doing, lads?" Like, last year was, at least in my time playing MCOC, was like the worst year for the game. They didn't really move forward. Their awards are so stale at the moment in comparison to, what's offered on days like the 4th of July, Cyber Weekend, and the gifting event. And I feel like there's a general consensus in the community that the one good thing that they did last year, the summer boss rush was a good thing as well, so two good things, but the one really good thing was actually finally getting on top of the champion buff cadence. And initially it started out with, like, we're gonna do 4 champion buffs a month. We had like the Kingpin, the Mole Man, the Terax month, and then it went down to 3, and then it went down to 2, and now it's gone down to no new champion buffs till April, but sometimes there might be 2 champions and sometimes there might not be. And we can't really commit to the volume of this rework. So to drop so rapidly in such a time frame, like the favorite thing in the community right now, the champion buffs, looking forward to, which of your characters that is absolutely useless or maybe just a little bit outdated is going to be getting a little bit of spice or maybe a lot of spice in certain circumstances. I think was that the one thing that was kind of the big win of last year. So to kind of like tone that back and put that in the background for essentially like a reworked version of the 6th month champion balancing cycle for new characters. uh it's just not the one. And the thing is, like, with new champions as well, I think like whales and people grinding for them, because if you want a new character, um toward the release of them, you either need to put up a lot of time or a lot of money. And then over the next 6 months, there's going to be nerfs, buffs, or modifications based on that testing and feedback. And the kind of pro that they have this time is they're apparently going to open up the private testing realm, the beta server, to more experienced summoners to get more feedback. And they've also employed a member of the community, Genic, who I must admit I'm not familiar with, but I've been told by Cam that he's a really good player, very knowledgeable. But overall, I don't see how this is better for like the average person, because like 80 to 90% of the community like don't get new characters for at least like 1 to 2 and a bit years, because it takes about like half a year for a character to even appear in like the basic crystal. And then on top of that, there are so many characters in the game now, your chances of pulling like that brand new character are significantly lower. And because this game's been out for 7 and a bit years, there are so many people that have been sitting on these useless champions or very underwhelming champions like Drew, OG Iron Man, Superior Iron Man, Rocket Raccoon, now very outdated, and just like dozens of other characters that just don't really do anything for their roster and progression. So I kind of feel like this announcement falls in this weird place of all the whales and big spenders are like, don't fuck with my new god tier champion, and the rest of the community that don't get these new characters for 1 to 2 plus years are like, why do I care about this, man? I just want like all these crappy champions in my roster buffed. So that I don't understand like who this is trying to appeal to or make happy here. So yeah, I don't get it, man. I feel like they had such a good system going last year, and to just change that and kind of scale it back, it doesn't make any sense to me. It just seems really really stupid. But we'll see, man. Maybe something good can come out of this. I prefer that they just like, would ramp up resources to updating champions and kind of like get back on track to updating like 4 champions a month. Again, we are in a game now that has over 200 different characters. So yeah, at least 3 to 4 buffs every month would be good, instead of like, oh, well, maybe sometimes we might be able to do like 2 slight reworks potentially moving forward. Um, so yeah, I'm not a big fan of that approach. And like one other thing we got to talk about here is the new the new 5-point ability rating system to all champions in this game. What does this look like? We're going to be rating champions on a few different aspects of their abilities and general strengths and weaknesses. While we are still hammering down the details, we are currently looking to implement ratings for damage output, survivability, utility, and ease of use. And this is going to be on a 1 to 5 scale. So, for example, Col Obsidian is a great champion with high damage output, but not as much utility. So he would have a 5 out of 5 in damage, but closer to a 1 to 2 for utility. And Magic, on the other hand, is a champion with high utility and ease of use, but a lower damage rating. Now, I feel like currently Marvel Contest of Champions is a very complicated game. And I feel like this doesn't really do anything to help people. And this is mainly because for damage, for example, there are so many different ways that you can measure and judge damage based on the fight duration, the mode of content that you're in, and it becomes very difficult to accurately portray characters on a scale of 1 to 5 in damage. And I'll give you some examples of what I mean. So there are different types of damage dealing in Marvel Contest of Champions. You have your characters that just have like a sustained damage loop, somebody like Black Widow Clairvoyant, Warlock Silver Surfer. Once you get into the rotation, it kind of just plateaus in terms of the damage. There's no significant ramp up, but also it doesn't cool down either. Then you've got your big ramp up damage in a singular fight, like Star-Lord or Carnage, for example. You also have your ramp up burst characters like Magneto, Sunspot, Proxima Midnight, that spend a while just trying to get to this point where they unleash like a devastating special attack or get like a massive buff or bonus. Then you also have, which makes it even more complicated, you've got like your multi-fight ramp up champions. So you've got your burst damage ones like Corvus Glaive that ramp up. You need to get his charges, but then also in that fight as well, he starts off amazing, but then when you're out of Glaive charges, man, your damage is dead for like 45 seconds. And then you also have your multi-fight ramp up damage, like Aegon, for example. Aegon's an interesting one, because like, how do you rate Aegon in terms of damage? Because in the first fight, he's going to be cheeks. The second fight, third fight, probably cheeks as well. And if you don't have that awakened ability, he's cheeks forever. And then you have like Guillotine 2099, Morningstar, Hercules, Professor X as well, just as examples of, characters that need like multiple fights to ramp up in terms of their damage. Then on top of that as well, you've got damage that relies on stuff tied to the awakened ability. Does this champion need to be awakened like Aegon, for example, to actually really get the damage going? Is it a character that also relies on a very high signature level on top of that awakened ability in order to really dish out the damage? And also, more so now than ever, you've got so many characters that rely on a certain synergy or group of synergies, like the Thing Champion synergy, for example, to really bring that big damage output. So I don't see how like you can accurately rate and judge, and how this like serves any value to progressing players. And utility is like a whole different story as well, because utility is like only really relevant to the challenge or particular piece of content that you're trying to counter or overcome. And, a champion might have a full team of like 5/5 utility champions, but not have anybody specific for the matchup that you're trying to counter or deal with. Overall, I just think this rating system is a little bit more on the pointless side, and I think they need to add in practical tools to allow players to filter through their roster and find out which champions are going to be appropriate for the piece of content, the challenges that they're trying to tackle. And I think this actually feeds back into the filter system and the tag system in the game. For example, if I'm a progressing player and I come across really simple stuff here, like Abomination, and I need a poison immune champion, and the game nowadays, it throws characters at you, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, like there is no tomorrow. People get very overwhelmed by their roster and all the characters in it very quickly, and unless you spend a lot of time reading, because as many of us know that have played this game for a while, some characters, man, are just absolute manuals to read through. What we need is like a better way to filter relevant to what that champion can do in their utility. So I think they actually need to add in, and I think this is like a fairly simple addition here, tags that kind of indicate that champion's utility. So, for example, if I am fighting Abomination, I could just type in like poison immunity, click on that tag, and then it would bring up like every single character in my roster that has poison immunity. And then on top of that, for later endgame challenges, maybe I need a poison immune champion that can also bleed or incinerate. So, adding in like debuff tags as well, so I can instantly bring up all the champions that bleed or incinerate or shock or whatever mechanic I need relevant to the challenge that I'm trying to overcome. I think a system like this, very simple, very practical for just immediately being able to filter relevant information, because at the moment we have this scenario where if you want to look up immunities, you need to go through individually the characters or bring up that very complicated immunities chart with like all the overlaps there as well, whereas like a filter, having like immunities on there, also debuff resistance as well, could be separate tags for that. Debuffs, so you got your bleed, your poison, your shock, your incinerate characters. You'd also have like a section for additional non-damaging debuffs, like for example armor break, slow, fate seal, nullify, the ability to instantly bring up like all the characters that can remove buffs, to kind of help players have this like very interactive guide to figure out, okay, like I'm dying to this fight, what am I dying to, what's the reason, is it like evade, does the opponent gain a certain buff, do they gain healing, can I block, can I reverse that healing? So it's kind of like adding in the tools via tags to allow people to filter through their roster and characters to find out like what are going to be the appropriate counters. And then on top of all those tags, again, additional ones for stuff like True Strike, Armor Up, Unstoppable, Fury, Regeneration, ability accuracy reduction champions like Archangel, for example, and then power control champions, Power Drain, Power Lock, Power Steal, Luke Cage's Exhaustion, and maybe some like invulnerability, invincible stuff like Hercules and Immortal Hulk and all that. Just like practical filters that can easily help people navigate their roster, especially if they're coming back to the game as well. And somebody that hasn't played for, let's say, like 2 years might have like half of their roster now, because we got a lot of buffs last year, significantly buffed in comparison. So I think tags would be a good way to start. I think there needs to be like some sort of additional section as well that makes it like easier to navigate synergies outside of Aunt May, that actually like shows all the character synergies available, man, because there are so many synergies in this game. But it'd be great if there was like a additional section for all the other characters that have synergies with this character on top of that. So yeah, I think there just like needs to be a lot of basic stuff done that would be much more beneficial to the average progressing player that's trying to learn the game, trying to figure out the utility that their characters have, what can counter what in certain scenarios, than like this 1 to 5 system that just doesn't really seem like it's going to be that helpful. I've tried making tier lists where I rate champions like 1 to 5, and they're always it just there's just so much additional explanation required, because there is so much criteria for how a champion's damage actually performs and scales up in the fight itself or across multiple fights. So yeah, I'm not really excited for this system, man. Again, if they find a good way to do it, then fair play, but I have a feeling this amazing description that they've given of we're gonna rate the utility, the damage output, the survivability and ease of use on a scale of 1 to 5, I don't think is going to quite cover the complexity of the game, or kind of properly guide newer players or progressing players and help them fully understand their characters and what they are capable of. But who knows? I could be an absolute idiot. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of the update to balancing in the comments section below. I'm curious to see what happens. But the fact as well that we are not getting like any new champion buffs now until April, coming out of a very weak year. I mean, it doesn't make you too excited for the first half of 2022 in Marvel Contest of Champions. Like, I really miss the champion buffs already, and hopefully we're gonna get some spicy news or an update soon. But yeah, let me know how you feel about this in the comment section below. Thank you all very much for watching. Take care, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.